Hey everybody, welcome back to another install video. Today we're going to be doing a really cool install on the JT Gladiator, and this one is going to be the American Adventure Labs Highline LED fender lights. So we did a video on this a while back, putting these onto the JL Rubicon, and I've been really happy with them. They're super clean, super bright, and I had to put these on the Gladiator. Now there's a difference between these ones and the ones that are on the Gladiator Rubicon, and that specifically is the mounting bracket. So I have a Willys edition and it does not have the higher fenders, so they've made a version of these Highlines that will fit these Gladiators or Sahara JLs, those level trims with the lower mounting position, and it gives you a really clean look where the factory, I mean honestly, this is the way the factory should have produced them, but they didn't, and thanks to American Adventure Lab, we are going to put these in, so let's jump right in. We're not going to be removing the actual fender liner itself. I much prefer the look with the fender liner in. Unless I need that additional clearance, it's not necessary for me to remove these. And with the 35s on here, there's not going to be enough flex in these where I'm going to be rubbing anyhow. So that said, I'm going to be doing the same thing that I did to my Wrangler, and I'm going to be leaving this fender liner in place. But what we're going to need to do is peel back this undercover, this wheel well cover that protects your engine bay and then the underside of your fender itself. So there's several tabs that we're going to need to remove to be able to get access all the way to the back over here, and your actual plug for these lights is going to be accessed back in the rear over here. So we'll pull this down and just work around this stuff without fully even removing it, and then we'll cut off these lights and put the new ones in. Okay, we've removed 4 of these inner liner tabs, and now we're going to have to remove 3 of these 10mm little bolts that are fastening this liner into your actual fender. Now what we're going to do is just pull this liner down. And then we have plenty of access in here to be able to remove these lights. And then up in here is the actual wiring harness for these lights that we're going to tap into. But it'll be replaced all the way through into the back over here. And our next step is going to be removing these 2 10mm bolts that are holding in part of this housing for this light, as well as a Phillips head screw right here at the bottom. Okay, so right here you have a T25 bit, and then in here where you can't see, right behind this housing here where my finger is, there's another T25. This one's going to release part of the front light, and then this one in here is going to release your corner marker. So we'll remove those. For this wiring harness, there's a little tab on here that you're going to lift up on, and it'll disconnect. Okay, so back here in the back is the harness connection that I was telling you about, and so there's a little red tab you're just going to release, and then it'll be able to clip off and pull out. But you got to pull out that little red tab, and then that's again where you're going to be hooking in your new wiring harness. This is the red tab that I was telling you you need to pull up on, and then when you pull up on it, there's this little black clip that it actually pushes into and stops that from depressing, you press down on this little black clip right here and it'll actually release this harness from the factory portion that goes into your engine bay. But that's the first thing you need to do is pull up on this little red tab and then push on the black one, and that's what will release it for you. There's 3 more T25 screws that we're gonna need to release. One of them is gonna be right here, another one up here, and then one more up here in this corner. And once you remove those 3, and at any point you can pull down on this covering plate right here, and then there's another T25 bolt right here that's holding into this housing. My next step is going to be taking a Dremel cutting wheel, and then I'm going to cut from this corner all the way to the inner edge right here and be able to slide this little portion that's resting over this frame mount right here. Okay, now that this is cut off, you'll be able to slide it out, and then you'll be able to pull down this entire clip, or this entire facing, and be able to push out this light harness. But before we do that, we have 2 more T25 bolts that we're gonna have to undo. So these little guys have some metal clips on the back of them that they're screwing into, and you have to like manually like pull on it as you unscrew, otherwise it just keeps zeroing out and you can't actually get them undone. We're gonna go ahead and slowly push this away from the fender. Now that this 3M's disconnected, what we're gonna do is cut this this tab that's holding in the rest of this housing, and then it should drop out of place. Now the only thing holding it in right now is this wiring harness, but we've disconnected that, so we should be able to pull it through. Okay, now that the light's out, what we can do is take a look at where our new light's gonna sit, and then we can cut this box basically all the way off and then trim it where we want it after the light's already installed. Before we can actually mount our light, we need to further remove part of this housing for the inner liner. And there's a tab right here that connects the inside of this housing to your top of your fender. And there's a little push spot on the back of this that you're gonna depress and slide it forward, and they'll come out. Now we'll be able to drop this down and get it out of the way and make a cut right up in here and a cut here, and then we'll be able to see roughly where this light's gonna sit. So we'll go ahead and knock that out. So these are side specific, and basically you can't really mess it up because of the way that the mounting bracket sits. You have this frame mount right here and a frame mount up here, and that's where they are going to reside accordingly with the provided hardware. So in like that, and then we're going to cut off this tab right here so that it's flush, and it'll be roughly like that. It'll be really nice. Right, with this inner liner still in, we're going to need to trim along where I marked at this top line to be able to mount that external bolt for the end of your light. If you don't want to mount that bolt, you don't have to. I'm choosing to on this one, and that's the line that I'm going to cut so that that bracket that goes on the inside, that hole is clean and clear, and I can actually see it. So that's how that's going to work, is just cut along that and then straight down to the edge here. Okay, so there's the cut, and we should have plenty of clearance for the bolt itself. Now we're going to go ahead and trim this a little bit further back because it's still in the way right here. Okay, as you can see, the lights pretty much lined up. And what we're going to need to do next is just wire this wire back to the harness in the back, and then put in these two mounting bolts, and we're basically done. So our harness goes from right here, and we're going to run it behind this front bracket, and then we're going to run it underneath this top bracket and behind it, so it's against the frame wall essentially. And now there's another frame mount right here and another one right here, and we're gonna just thread it all the way through. Okay, now that I have that done, I need to connect the LED harness to this. So basically I'm going from halogen to LED. I purchased the LED harness to be able to make sure that there's no bulb out warning or anything like that, and the system integrates seamlessly. So this is your bulb out fix for these halogen to LED. American Adventure Lab provided the super lube synthetic grease for your electrical connections, and the instructions state to lubricate your electrical connections to prevent corrosion. Now this is a new thing that they are doing since the last time that I bought these. I think it's cool. I mean, precautionary stuff is always awesome. Our next step is going to be to mount these two 12mm bolts that are provided in your kit. Time to put this inner liner back together. And what we'll do is just one part at a time, and then start fitting these pieces back so that we can trim where we need to. Okay, to show you these cuts, essentially I cut the liner along the frame, pretty even with the frame, and then up to this circle right here that would allow you access to the inside of this mounting point, and then I cut it at a V inward and a V this way, and then tucked everything up front into the underside of this light. And I'll show you another view of it so that you can do it at your house and have a real good idea of what I did. And I just took my time and trimmed it. So if something gets in your way, just trim it a little bit more, but it should tuck up in there without you having to trim the front of this at all. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is put the mounting bolt on the outside of this shell. And I typically wouldn't do that, but with the way that this is tucked up in there and the slightly different design of these lower mounts for this lower fender, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with it not separating like that, bouncing around or anything like that, if I just put that bolt in there. And now, which is really awesome, American Adventure Lab provides black bolts, which will look great because I don't like the chrome, and that's one of the main reasons I didn't do it in the first place. So I'll pull this back out, show you what it looks like, and then put this pre-drill this this mounting hole for that bolt, and then that'll be, this side will be basically done. Okay, here's the inner liner. For reference purposes, obviously it gets cut all the way up to this circle up here, and then everything's trim along this frame. But if you're looking for a reference as far as how far in I cut, you're looking at approximately an inch between the corner of this little squared imprint and the edge. And then you're looking at approximately 6 1/4 inches from edge to edge on this V to this V. So that'll give you a really good reference, I think, as far as where I cut. And this one just goes all the way back at an angle. So 6 1/4 inches from edge to edge. And then up here, if you were to go from where I ended up ending to, say, this middle of this bolt hole right here, 9 inches. So that'll give you a good reference point, and you would just repeat this on the other side and opposite. So what we'll do now is drill a pilot hole for this edge bolt, and then push this back in, and this side's done. The last thing that we did was use a 1/4 inch drill bit on the inside of this mounting bracket with an angle drill. Really easy to use at that point. Put a light on it and then just slowly drilled right through it. We'll go ahead and mount this 6mm bolt here, and then tuck this back in, trim this off nice and clean, and that will complete the side. So now that's all tightened in. I just hand tightened it so that it didn't mar the paint at all or anything like that, but it should be good and it ain't gonna go anywhere. Really solid fit. Let's tuck this back in. And now we'll figure out our line that we're gonna take to trim this off at a good angle. Okay, use a silver Sharpie to make a line using this straight template, essentially, with the masking tape where I wanted it. Pull that off, and then we're gonna trim it out just like that. And I'm gonna go just a little bit below and then sand into it so that it's a smooth finish. And then for fine tuning, I use a razor blade to kind of get off the excess little particles. I'm gonna use a magic eraser to get off this excess marker. Okay, so there's my very clean line and the finished product for the trim and how to do this with the liner on. So that's basically one whole side. I hope the views were very detailed for you to be able to see. I had done this on the Wrangler and I had a few people ask some extra questions, so hopefully this shows you exactly what you need to do. Very close and detailed. I'm gonna knock out this other side and then I'll show you the finished product. So that was basically everything you need to do to be able to install the Highlines by American Adventure Lab. I think they're really nice. Obviously I have them on my JL and my Gladiator. I think that it looks way better than factory, but now there's a version of how to keep those inner fender liners on and do it with both the higher fenders and the lower fenders if you were to have a Sport or Sahara level trim, or like me, a Willys Gladiator. But that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and we will see you on the next install.